This is April 20, 2012. It's Justicedonedirtcheap. We're doing an interview in Fredericton, New Brunswick with someone who is a bicyclist. How are you doing today, sir?
Not too bad.
And what is your name?
John Muse.
John Muse. What are your views on the helmet laws? As in the mandatory helmet law for the city of Fredericton.
Well, I guess I'm a conscientious objector. Hey, buddy, stay under there, pal. Don't do that. I guess that's the word. I guess.
I'll ask you this: do you believe that as an adult,
Right.
that someone has the authority or power to tell you whether to wear a helmet or not?
No, and it's not a matter necessarily of my right. I mean, not to wear a helmet. It's my own capacity to use any discretion. I mean, if this is a carte blanche thing, I can't say. I mean, I live in Cape Breton, right?
Yes.
I mean, I shouldn't say that. I live in Fredericton. I'm from Cape Breton. If I ever decided to pedal to Cape Breton, right?
Yes.
For whatever reason, on a camping trip or something like that, I mean, I don't, and I know accidents can happen in your backyard. You can, sitting at the dinner table, the ceiling could fall on your head.
Yes.
There are lots of situations that I can imagine choosing to do that.
Yes.
And I don't like to say that my past experience necessarily proves my future.
Yes.
But I don't like to make something that that isn't, generally speaking, a negative, dangerous experience, something dangerous beforehand.
Yes.
Based on sort of my own, experience, common sense, and I guess to use my own discretion, I suppose. I'm not trying to be a daredevil or risk my life. I feel if I got in an automobile, I would be risking my life. I think I've been in an automobile probably in the last 10 years, probably, well, to be honest, about 20 times.
Yes.
That's because of my really kind of acute, it's a big, heavy thing, and a lot of things are going on in that car that are beyond my control. I mean, it's a very dangerous thing. If I get on a bicycle, I mean, things can happen.
Yes.
But I don't want to kind of anticipate those things to give the impression that every single time I get on a bicycle, I have to put a helmet on because something's going to be... If that's the case, then I have to kind of be honest about it and put one on everywhere. If I'm going to get in a car, if I'm going to walk down the street, because the chances of those sorts of things happening are about the same.
Yes.
So it infantilizes us, I suppose, in my humble opinion.
Just drawing the conclusion that, I mean, if they actually said that everyone in a car has to wear a helmet, there'd probably be some public outcry.
I think so, unless we allowed ourselves again to become incredibly infantilized, rather than to kind of look around and say, okay, I'm on a bicycle, I'm with my son maybe teaching him. I don't want to give him the impression that it's a particularly dangerous experience driving 2 miles an hour. That's going to make him afraid. If he sees a person with a helmet on all the time, that's going to lead him to associate something that's relatively not dangerous with some... So I have a responsibility.
Yes.
It's not about a right. It's about a responsibility, I guess, to exercise some sort of discretion. That goes with everything. How much soy sauce I put on my rice, all kinds of things, how much food I eat, how much salt intake, or whatever sort of thing. To kind of give the impression, I guess, that I'm capable, I suppose, of using discretions and using discretion and not needing to be infantilized.
Not needing to be told what to do. If you can decide to protect yourself, then you'll do it. And and like you said, if you're going to be getting into a more dangerous situation, then you might decide to wear a helmet because it'd be in your interest.
I mean, now people will say, you could fall anyway, but yeah, I guess that's what it comes down to kind of use discretion. Also, the other thing, I guess, which is a byproduct, one of the reasons that I don't wear a helmet is not so much that it's that I guess I'm concerned that, general lack of kind of communication between people. I mean, so much of our communication is done now through money, through technology, through email, through Facebook, through texting. I mean, we're mediated so much already.
Yes.
That's just another way of participating in further mediation. I don't like to say it. I like to take the gloves off. I like people to see me. One of the things that I notice if I pass somebody by who I would normally know,
yes,
without a helmet, I tend to not recognize that person because there's a kind of, especially the person that has sunglasses on, a helmet, spandex. Basically, you're saying I'm not here. Whereas I kind of like to that if I'm coming up to people, that they know who I am, and
yes,
generally, I mean, they see John, he's kind of got a bald head and all of this sort of thing, and that's him. I don't want to hide.
Yes.
So, outside of the idea of, I guess, being infantilized, not using your own discretion, taking some responsibility for kind of exhibiting that, I guess, is the other thing of kind of finding another way of hiding behind somebody, getting out of the public. I like to be vulnerable, I guess. Not to be dangerous, not to take risks, but so that people can see me for who I am. If I'm passing by somebody, that person sees me. I don't want to kind of wear a mask.
You want to have more of a humane experience.
Yes, I guess that's, so it's a more, I guess if you want to call it an existential philosophical thing. I mean, I have a problem with, because I know we're all capable of it, I have a problem with hiding in the first place, in using abstractions, mediation as a means of power.
Yes.
Hiding behind a mask, hiding in a car, hiding behind speed, all of these sorts of things. So I have an aversion to those things anyway, outside of the helmet. So the wearing the helmet thing puts me in another situation where I'm forced to kind of seclude myself from the rest of humanity, as opposed to saying, look, we're all vulnerable, we're all human, we're all mortal. The point is, I'm not saying...
Let's have a connection.
Yes, and things happen. Also to concede that accidents do happen, there are contingencies. I'm not trying to advertise that through some horrible death or accident or injury or something like that, but the business of putting the helmet on, it sort of gives the impression that we shouldn't die, we shouldn't have accidents, we shouldn't fail, we shouldn't have scars. You know, and I'm not trying to sort of to reductively, romantically reduce character to falling off a bicycle, but these kind of proverbial bumps and bruises, it's another way, again, of sort of denying our humanity.
Yes.
I'm hiding again. I'm a person who, and it makes us incredibly hubristic in a strange sort of way. I'm often sort of accused of being hubristic because who do you think you are? And I say, well, who do you think you are? Do you think that magic is going to magically protect you from death? I mean, geez, if the sun stops shining there, we're dead. I mean,
as if wearing a helmet is going to protect you from basically getting run over by a car.
Yes.
All the other plethora of things that could possibly happen. And I got you a question for you. Have you ever been given a ticket for not wearing a helmet on the bicycle?
Yes.
And when was that? Was it once, twice?
At least 3 times, and I believe at least twice, maybe 3 times, it was the same police officer.
Really? And was that recently, or was it...
The first time was, I think, 2002. That's the first time when I became aware that this was an issue.
Yes.
I was going down Regent Street, Kim and I, we were coming from St. Thomas. I teach up there, and she used to go to class with me. It was in the wintertime. We were coming down Regent Street, and we passed a squad car, and he was pulled over to the side of the road. And I think he had somebody pulled over, and as we were going by, he waved to me, and he called me back. And I said, Kim, he wants us to go back. So she said, oh, he probably wants to, get us for not wearing helmets. I said, I don't know, man. So we turned around and went back, and I said, yeah, what is it? And he said, do you have any ID, I think, or something like, where do you live? Something very abstract.
Yes.
So what I thought was first that, because it was not long after 9/11, I thought, like, the weirdest thing. I think, what are there terrorists or something? Am I not allowed to go home? And he said, do you have ID on you? I said, yes. And he said, where do you live? And I said, actually, right there. And he said, can you show me your ID? And I said, okay. So I'm thinking, what's going on here? So I pull my ID out and show it to him. And he says, do you know it's illegal to drive a bicycle without a helmet? And I thought, oh, geez, is that what this is all about? I could have flown by. I didn't even... So I go, yeah, and I sort of gave him the impression that I was the conscientious objector. So he took my ID, he took my wife's ID. My wife took it very hard because, I mean, it's uncomfortable, with a police officer, for anybody.
Yes. Because
he went inside of the car with our IDs and made us sort of wait outside of the car. And it was very cold. It was in the wintertime. We were almost home. We could touch home.
Yes.
And it was about 30 below, I think, or something like that with the wind chill, so we were worried about getting kind of frostbite or something, and she felt she was being humiliated, sort of, because we had to wait. And finally he came back and gave us back our IDs. I don't know what was going on, if he was running a check or something like that, and gave us a ticket. And do
you remember the officer's name?
I'd be dishonest if I said I knew it for sure. I have the ticket somewhere, and I could probably find it, but...
Yes, that's all right. So do you think that they actually apply the helmet law, this mandatory helmet law, fairly, or do you think it's arbitrary, or do you think they target certain groups, or?
That particular day, it seemed there was no good reason. I don't know if that particular police officer had a nasty experience with the person that he pulled over, because it was just a chance that I was going to be idiotic enough to go back.
Yes.
So the next time, and I believe it was the same police officer. It was 2 years later, I think. No, it was later than that, because he had been born. It must have been 2008. And we were coming, I was teaching in the summertime, and we were coming home from teaching. I was coming home from teaching a short story course, and by that time he was an infant in the cart behind me.
Yes.
And we were coming, let me think, coming down, Charlotte Street to get to York Street.
Yes.
So we were coming down there, and we were with talking. I was on my bicycle. Alphonsus was in the cart behind me. My wife was sort of driving along behind, and a friend of ours was with us, and he was on his bicycle. He didn't have a helmet either.
Yes.
So we're driving, and we see these cops down there, sort of with a roadblock.
Yes.
Jeez. So he turns around and takes off, and I say, I can't do this. This is silly. The cop has seen me.
Yes.
So I'm going to have to face the music. So
yes.
my buddy just took off because the cop couldn't catch him, sort of thing.
Yes.
So I say, oh no, I drive up to the cop. So finally I drive up to him, and it's the same guy, I
yes.
believe. So he gave us tickets again, and because he gave the suggestion that we made no effort to show deference, I guess, because I guess it was maybe he thought it kind of flagrant that we just rode right up to him, rather than try to kind of hide the fact we weren't wearing helmets. But we figured it was kind of pointless, because it's kind of like shooting fish in a barrel.
There you are.
So yeah, that was the thing. It's
ironic that your honesty, you might have took offense to.
Well, that was 2 times, and both times, I mean, the second time in particular, we were, as far as I know, I mean, we were doing no harm. Things could happen, I suppose. Something could fall out of the sky, something. I mean, I could fall. Even if I fell, I would have to come around somehow and land on the top of my head.
Yes.
I mean, if we really care about this stuff, right, then go big or go home. That's
yes.
another problem, because you should have stuff all down your side, as you and I know who drive bicycles. If you fall, most of the time, the thing that you bang is an arm or a face or an ear or something like that. It's very rare.
Our shins get destroyed every day, rather than...
Yeah. So it's very rare that you come down on the top of your head, especially if you're going very slowly.
Yes.
As I say, situations could arise. I could be hit and fly a certain way. But it was obvious to me, it seemed obvious, if anybody using discretion in that particular situation, it was a mother, a father, a child on a summer day, driving along, sort of, there was no bike lane there, but where the bike lane sort of would be on the side of Charlotte Street.
Yes.
Going very slowly.
Yep.
Trying to be conscious of pedestrians and car drivers, that this was an okay behavior. But from that person's perspective, and I think it must have been the beginning of summer when maybe the police officer felt obliged to put a message out there.
Yes.
That these kind of irresponsible people were going to kind of, go out and make sure we ticket enough of them today or this week. And I guess we just happened to be caught in the net.
Yes.
I think that's what it was. Because he's, Alphonsus, hey buddy. Alphonsus. Alphonsus. Psst, hey, take it easy, pal. I guess maybe because there are a number of citizens or constituents as they maybe had particular negative experiences or wanting to know, hey, how come I saw some people today driving without helmets and nothing was happening? So the policeman feels obliged to sort of take it out on the slowest driver, family.
Yes.
Which is really kind of, made me more adamant about offering solidarity to other people, I suppose, out of a sense of responsibility. I mean, considering all the things that I've just said, there are other maybe families out there, there are other people out there who are in the same situation, who are, from my perspective, not doing anything particularly wrong except having the audacity to do something people would have done 15 years ago.
Yes.
And would have been said hello to for, rather than persecuted.
Now it seems like people are being demonized for, not wearing a helmet or being on the sidewalks or even generally being on bicycles.
Well, yeah, the last time I was ticketed, it was probably only about maybe 3 years ago, or maybe 4 years ago, I guess. It was down in front of down on King Street here. And we were down at Coffee and Friends, the coffee shop, and I had Alphonsus in the bike cart, and he was, again, very small. And I was trying to get him he was sort of trying to have a nap in the afternoon, so I was driving. I was doing two things wrong. I was on the sidewalk, of course, and I wasn't wearing a helmet, but I wanted to go very slowly. And I mean, I could have been pushing him in a stroller. It would have been the same thing, because we would have taken up the same space. So I'm trying to get him to sleep, and I decided to go a little further down the street. I went down to where the old liquor store used to be down here on King Street. So trying to get away from people to get him to sleep. And as I got down there, was this same police officer, I believe. He was by himself. He didn't have a partner with him, so I was a bit intimidated. I don't know why, but proceeded to kind of get me in the parking lot there, and he was very, I think, angry at me because he recognized me from two previous occasions, rather, and I said, yes, I guess now you know I'm a conscientious objector. I said there's the spirit of the law and the letter of the law, and I feel it's important that we use discretion when we're
This is the third time you were ticketed by the same individual?
By the same individual, yeah. So this time was the most uncomfortable because it was more of a kind of a moral lecture, you know, about everything, parenting, being someone who, you're the kind of person who likes to break laws and all of this, and I say, no, that's not, I feel as Thoreau says, some sort of social, political, philosophical obligation to challenge certain laws, I guess, that are somehow, as Alphonsus says, I don't like laws that how do you put it, Alphonsus? We don't like laws that hurt people or something like that?
Don't care about other people.
Yeah, don't care about laws that don't care about other people, I guess. Laws that kind of, you know, in their own kind of unintentional way perpetuate or facilitate bigotry, incivility, those sorts of things, lack of discretion. So I said, this is one of these laws that just seems to be doing this. So I said, this is why I'm not wearing this thing. So the person again asked me if I had ID. I said yes, and at that point, because the police officer was in the car the whole time I was talking to him, but when he asked me for the ID and I said yes, I had to put my backpack down on the ground. And when I did, he got out of the automobile and stood over me.
Yes.
That was very intimidating. I don't know why, but there was something very intimidating about that, because he was staring down into my backpack as I was rummaging through it, and I felt like I was being violated in some way or something, in some small way.
Yes.
So I gave him the ID, and that particular day it took a particularly long time. I think he must have run a check on me, because he was in the car putting information in, you know, technology that he had for at least 20 minutes, and at one point I pleaded with him to let me go, to give me the ticket, because my son was in distress, because he was crying, and I said, please, I'll take the ticket. You have the unenviable job of giving me the ticket. I will pay the fine, but right now, can I please take care of my son? At which point he said something to the effect that your son wouldn't be in distress if he had been wearing a helmet in the first place. So I look on the door, what is it, to serve and protect, or whatever the hell it is that these things say. Here's a kid, here's a parent wanting to help a kid, and here's a cop saying, you can't help that kid because it's your fault that he's crying because you weren't wearing a helmet in the first place. And I'm thinking, man, this has all done more harm than good, because now I don't like you, you don't like me, my son is crying, he was not in any particular harm in the first place, now he is, now I have to take care of this. At the end of it all, he said, how are you going to get home today, John? And I said, I'm going to walk. He said, yes, I know you are, because I'm going to watch you. So I said, okay. So I start walking down the street, and sure enough, the guy, he stayed in that parking lot and watched me until I walked out of sight. And he screamed after me, John, get a helmet. I'm going to be keeping an eye on you. And I feel, you know, it's terrible, because I've been paranoid. I've been going around, and I'm wondering if this guy, because, you know, geez, I'm thinking, the kid's going to be taken away from me or some damn thing. You don't. I think this is one of the reasons that people kind of just basically give in and concede to this sort of thing. Because if someone can make that big of an issue out of it, that I'm putting my child in harm, or that I'm putting him in harm because I'm going to be on life support and all of that, these guys convince you, and I'm going to be keeping an eye on you. God, I don't want my kid to be taken away from me. So either you disagree with the law, or disagree with a lack of discretion, you feel somehow bullied into doing it anyways for fear of having your child taken away from you because somebody says, I'm going to watch you. What does that mean when someone says, I'm going to be keeping an eye on you?
Certainly doesn't seem like the laws are applied for the protection of anyone. They tend to generate money is about it.
Yeah, and as I say myself, it's kind of been in those experiences, at least two of them, shooting fish in a barrel.
Yes.
I mean, I've had, I can't go into it, I've had a number of experiences with people on the trail, but I can't drive on the trail. It's unfortunate. I drive a bicycle, as I say, 365 days a year, and I would be on that trail all the time, except for any time I've ever gone on the trail. The first minute I get on it, that's those guys, because they have an obligation. The trail patrol,
yeah.
They hunt you, they persecute you. I've been on that trail when I've been pushing him in a stroller, now not on a bicycle.
What we'll do is I want to get the trail story. We'll save that for another video.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you taking the time to provide your views for Justice Done Dirt Cheap.
Yes, and I'm sorry again for sounding so aggressive, but
no,
it needs to be spoken about, I think, and I thank you for asking me.
Thank you. People need to understand the human aspects of what these bylaws actually do and the actual effects on the people that are subject to them. I thank you again for your views, and I wish you a great day.
Thanks, man. Thanks, and again, I hope that wasn't too